Money is not real. Money isn't real. Money's not a real thing. If you take a $100 bill and you take a $1 bill, they're made of the same paper. They're made of the same ink on the paper. And if you look at what money is backed by, it's nothing. It's not backed by gold or silver or Bitcoin. It's not backed in anything. Those two pieces of paper are the same exact material. The only difference is what someone else will give you in exchange for that piece of paper. When I was in middle school, I was sitting at the lunch table with this kid who made a fake dollar bill, like a counterfeit $10 bill. And he went up to the lunch lady and he asked for change for a 10 and he got 2 5s back. And he came back to the lunch table and he was like, she believed it, she gave me 2 5s. Now, at some point, I'm sure the lunch lady or whoever she ended up trying to spend the money with caught the fact that it was a counterfeit $10 bill. But what if they hadn't? What if nobody had ever caught the fact that it was a fake $10 bill? Well, then that money would continue to go on being spent over and over and over again, and no one would really be able to tell the difference. And of course, there'd be a tiny little bit of inflation that would happen just from the fact that there was more money in the system, but there would be no other major changes in the world except for the fact that my friend just counterfeitedly made 10 fake dollars. Now, this is not an endorsement for making up fake dollars. Please do not do that. But what happened there was that it was a beautiful reflection of the fact that money is simply an agreement. It is not a real thing. It doesn't force anyone to do anything. It is simply an agreement for us to transact with one another, or not, or invest, or just sit in the bank. Some people will say that money is just energy, and I think that's a good way to describe it, even though it's kind of a woo-woo way of looking at it. Money is really like fuel. Money is the fuel to empower us to make the decisions that we want. But most of us don't think of it like that. Most of us make decisions in order to get money rather than simply making the decisions that we want and desire, knowing that the energy or the money is going to show up to support that. And it's my opinion that that's actually how it works. That's actually how life works. It's how money works, that money follows decisions, that money follows your focus rather than you putting your energy or your focus on how to make money. Put differently, money is just a reflection. It's a reflection of the agreements that we make together. If you think about before currency or before governments had money in circulation, we made agreements based on trading things, right? Or sometimes not even that, sometimes just personal agreements between two individuals or more individuals. And based on those agreements, we then made other decisions knowing that we had an agreement between each other. Now, we have dollars and contracts and other ways to make those decisions more efficient. You can put something on the internet and I can buy that thing on the internet and we enter into an agreement for you to send me that product. And the way that we make that real is by having a certain dollar amount exchanged. All that happened there was a numerical representation. There was a dollar amount exchanged in order for that agreement to happen. So money is just a way that we make agreements. What's important for us to prioritize in this example? Is it important for us to prioritize the money? Or is it important for us to prioritize the decisions and the agreements that we most desire? Now, sometimes we have to make decisions or agreements because the marketplace says that there's a lot of people who desire something, who demand something. For example, we see a lot of demand right now for things like really rare sports cards. People want rare sports cards. So what is that doing? It's encouraging people who have those sports cards to put them into the marketplace. It is simply a representation of what other people's desires and demands are. And it creates this ranking, this hierarchy of what desires are going to get prioritized by our attention. What money does is It incentivizes us to put attention on something. When there's a big problem in the world, we could just take environmental issues, for example. It allows us to allocate our attention to something for long enough for us to fix that problem. And because there's so much attention around the problem of environmental challenges, then there's a high dollar amount on someone coming in and solving that problem. That's why Elon Musk is the richest person in the world, because he came up with solutions, the best that we had at the time, for us to address a specific issue that society was saying they really wanted solved. That's what money is. Money is a way for us to simply choose what we put our attention on. Money is a way for us to get the attention of other people by putting a price on something. That's what money is. Now, we like to think that money is this thing that controls us, or that money is real at all. But all that is real is the perception that you have of it. All that is real is the decisions that you end up making, or the attention that you put on something. All that is real is your attention. All that is real is the decisions and the perspective that you have that money encourages. So all that to say, money is really just one data point in the way that we operate our lives. It is no way for us to make decisions about our lives. Now, there's one more perspective on this that came from an economics professor that I had in college. I went to a Christian college, and he said, "So many of you are wondering, what is God's plan for my life? And I'm here to tell you, he gave you the marketplace. The marketplace tells you where there is money and desire and demand. Follow the money." And what he was saying there is that the marketplace does a pretty good job of getting us to see where there is desire or demand, and that's reflected in dollars. So the marketplace actually does a pretty good job of telling us where there is need, or where there is demand, or where there is desire. And if your goal is to be of service, then money can actually be one of the important factors in you making a decision. But it's not the only factor into making that decision. So what does all this mean for you as a person or as an entrepreneur? Well, when I realized that money isn't a real thing, it affected my life in allowing me to make decisions based on things like energy instead of how much money I was going to get. After all, if money is just energy, then what I'm really after is the energy, not the money. Money doesn't really mean anything if it's just sitting in a bank account, right? That's just like potential energy for me to do things. What I'm really after is the things that I desire, not the potential to do things that I desire. The second thing that it did for me is it made me realize that other people's results have no impact on my own. Me looking at what other people have accomplished or amassed doesn't hold me back from being able to do great things, because money is just one factor, one reflection of somebody else's life. And it really has nothing to do with me. In fact, it may have more to do with what they have put their attention on and the problems that they have solved. And it doesn't mean that I need to do exactly the same thing or anything like that at all. And the third thing that it did was it helped me realize that if I prioritize things like solving problems or service to other people or doing things that really jazz me up, that the money will take care of itself. After all, those are the things that I'm after. I'm after doing the things that I really love. I'm really after the life that I want to create. And if I prioritize that, then money has a way of just kind of taking care of itself. So many of us have this fear mentality about money, about there not being enough money, about having to sacrifice the things that we want most in order to have enough money to survive. And what I have come to understand after struggling with that myself for a long time is that money is more the byproduct than the driver. That money is just the way that we transact, that money is just the way that we come to agreements with one another, and that money is a way to get our attention on where there is need. And me worrying about money in some ways is the thing that prevents me from having it. because then I'm doing things from a stressed place. Then I'm doing things from an attempt to try and take from somebody else, when there's actually an unlimited pie that we are creating. That the most important thing for me to do is to make the decisions on the type of life that I want, the impact that I want to make, the service that I want to create, and that money, if it's just energy, has a way of showing up to make that impact, that change, and those decisions possible. I tell you all of this because I know from my own life and from the lives of people that I interact with, how much fears about money hold us back. How often we make decisions based on trying to get money because we think that there's not enough of it. But if money isn't real, if there's no fixed amount of money in the world, then isn't it true that all of us can just act from the place of experiencing the lives that we want? And that doesn't mean buying all the things that we want. It doesn't mean forcing any other person to enter into an agreement with us, but can't we at least recognize that we can feel the way that we want to feel, and we can go through life with the intentions that we want to have of creating value and serving other people, and that money will sort of show up along the way? And isn't it true that the people who show up with that intention and that mentality are the people that you want to do business with, the people that you want to transact with, the people that you want to enter into partnerships with? And isn't it true that if you want to do business with somebody who shows up that way, that you end up buying from them? So doesn't it become a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you set the intention to have the life that you want, that money just kind of shows up to support that? Money isn't real. There is nothing that says your money has value except for the agreements that we put on it. The reason why Bitcoin is at all-time highs is because other people are willing to pay that amount for Bitcoin. There is no one who is the determiner of how much Bitcoin is worth. There is no one that is deciding how much that car is worth. There is no one to say that houses should be going up in price. The only reason why all of those things happen and that they have a price in the first place is because other people are agreeing to that. How do we come to those agreements? We come to those agreements in our minds. We come to those agreements based on what we perceive other people do and because of what we decide to do. It's completely irrational. It has no basis in reality because there is no fundamental reality to what things are worth or how much money needs to exist. And some people will even say, yeah, well, real money is gold and silver and assets, but even the value of those are arbitrary. Even the value of those things aren't based in any sort of objective reality. We only agree to buy from one another, and then the price that we see in the marketplace is what other people are deciding to pay. It has nothing to do with you or what you think is valuable. So if money isn't real, and if there is nothing to say what anything is worth, then who's to decide what you should do or what the marketplace should do or what business you should start? Only you, based on the context of life that you have. And that should be really freeing to you, because when you realize that you can decide to do anything, when you realize that you can make decisions based on energy and your own excitement and what you want to create in the world, the weird byproduct of that is that you make more money, because now you are not comparing yourself to what everybody else is doing. And now you are not operating from a tense or stressed place. Now you are just effortlessly creating from a place of excitement or contribution. And it just so happens that those are the types of people who end up out earning everybody else. And you know what happens then? Everybody else looks at the results that you're creating in the marketplace and they're saying, how did they do that? And then they're coming up with all kinds of objective stories about how you got there. Prioritize the life and the feeling and the experiences that you want to have. That's how you end up out earning everybody else. Because at the end of the day, there is no such thing as money. Money isn't real.